Hello everybody, welcome back to Fate Extra. I suppose I should explain something right now. I explained a lot of it, my thoughts and everything. I vented a lot in the last, in the Summer Night episode that was released during the same day as this one. Should be released the same day as this one. So if you're interested in knowing the full details, go watch that video if you want. But the reason there was, you remember last episode I said there was an interruption. The interruption was that my little brother, he had to go to the hospital. Well, he went to the doctors, and after that he needed to go to the doctors. So at the hospital, like, it turned out something he had was really serious. So that what happened last episode near the end, and that's all I want to talk about it right now. I vented in the Summer Night episode, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore here. I'm just going to focus what's going on in the current game right now. So yeah. If in case you're wondering, he's fine. Don't worry about my family. They're fine. And I feel like there's another interruption, not a horrible interruption that ruins moods. But yeah, so they may hear like the doorbell ring and whatnot. But anyway, this floor here, there's gonna be a boss at the end of the pathway. You'll see him before you battle him. So once you see me start, so there's gonna be a few enemies here. They're not too tough to take down. You shoot your skills and you should take them down. But as per the tradition of this particular series, I show off 2 enemy battles before I cut them out. Yes, now we have to find the truth. But as I was saying last episode, this game has quickly become one of my favorites, especially after I've seen the full entirety of the story. It's definitely one of my more favorite games on the PSP. I would definitely recommend it. And it's kind of too late for to bring to get enough attention to this game to get the sequel out. The sequel could come out like on the Vita and as a limited physical release, something like Summer Night 5. But that all depends on how Summer Night 5 does, actually. But I wouldn't say Fate Extra CC. I say that has no chance of actually making it over here unless they made an HD re-release, including Fate Extra. Well, not HD, maybe a Vita re-release on the, containing both games on the Vita, and yeah, containing both games on the Vita. Although if they were to release that in the US, they probably just release Fate Extra CC. But that's just speculation at this point. No, nothing is actually confirming anything. I probably didn't need to do Merciful Sky. Just 2 skills would have been enough here. But yeah, we're probably wondering what exactly is causing all this weird malicious intent. And there's just aura around here. If you remember, they said that Castle said there was a zombie wandering around here, and somebody we know is doing this to us. And I won't spoil it, but the game is telling you, giving you a lot of hints about who it is. And there was one person, if you remember, that didn't exactly go out like all the others did. Normally, for something like this, I would be more quiet, but considering there is no voice dialogue during this particular scene here, I'm not going to be too quiet. gonna be a little more quiet than usual, but well, that's a lie. Now, I'm not sure if the thing. Well, obviously, this is talking about the hallways, but I don't know if this is talking about Julius or Leo himself, or whether or not there were just several failed clones before Leo. Not clones, but children before Leo came to be. Now, I'm unsure if this is the case, but it is something to think about. And yeah, it's something to think about. You know, I'm asked to give my opinions on a lot of things sometimes, and I'm not usually one to give out a direct opinion on something, because I'm just not that kind of person. I'm not the person to ask whether you look nice in this sort of apparel, or whether this looks nice here or whatnot. I'm just like, if it works, then it works. And so for games, like, I couldn't give you a definitive score on a game. I could give you some of my opinions on the overall thoughts of the game, whether I thought it was good, okay, or bad, or whatnot. But giving a general score of a game is not something I can do. But I can tell you, this is one of my favorite games on the PSP. I don't know if I could do replay throughs, but it is one of my favorite games. If you're having trouble, play in easy mode, pick Saber, Archer, whatever, and play the game with those characters. If you really want Caster, then you're probably going to need to do some grinding, because Caster's weak defense. Well, not grinding, but you need to focus on Caster's defense and magic. But your magic should be at least A if you're playing as Caster, and your defense at least C. And I get my defense to C by the end of the game. So if your stats are that, then you're totally okay. If you've just been focusing on magic, then it should be like EX plus or something, or not EX plus, just EX, something like that. So because you'd have to have damage your enemy enough where your low defense wouldn't matter. Yeah, it turns out there was never a third enemy. It was never like three of the same type of enemy in here, so I never had to cut out anything, which is good, because today, you know, I didn't have much time to record. It's 9 o'clock p.m. right now. This is gonna be rendered and probably be uploaded at around 10, and then I'll probably go to bed right after this is done uploading. So it's just it's been hectic lately, and I explain all my thoughts in some of my videos. So if you're really interested in like what I did, what I'm doing, watch that video. If you're really interested. If you're not interested and you just wanted to know what happened last time, then I'm not going to talk about it that much anyway. Anyway, this scene is it's now uncensored, and we don't really know much about it. But yeah, from here we can tell that I think Leo's been going through like some weird surgery to become perfect or whatnot. He's been going through like almost brainwashing. He's been told that Leo has been told, prepared to be a king, and he believes he is the one to rule everybody else. We know that he can't do that at the state he's currently in, and as we'll find out, somebody else does think that as well, and it's not Rin. Let me down. Yeah. But at this point, it's quite obvious who this person is. And we collapse for some reason. Like, there's a lot of things in this game that we can't exactly connect to, because there's no way for anybody to experience just an onslaught of emotions from somebody else's own memories and soul, I guess. The consciousness, I should say. We We can't do that. There's no way to actually see that happening, which is hard to connect to this game sometimes when it's talking about his consciousness just like touched my soul, or, you know, affected my being, went into my own consciousness and whatnot. It's hard to relate to that because it's not something you'd see unless you were like Julius or something like that. So, or had those thoughts yourself. So for me, who hasn't had any of those kind of thoughts, it's kind of hard to connect to this sort of, not connect, but understand. Understand is a better word to understand this, what our main character is going through. So it's a bit difficult to do that. I just say that because the game overall has been good about letting you understand what your current character is going through. You may not experience his memory loss, but you understand what he's going through. He's an NPC turned master, and he thought he was human. You would probably react to that the same way if you were just told you're an NPC and given like undeniable proof that you weren't an actual person. Feel the exact same thing he was if you lost your memories. You know this. You'd probably just be lost as he was. Which makes it a little bit easier to connect, even though most of us haven't lost their memory. It's easy to connect because it's been portrayed in media before. And the game is very descriptive on what's actually occurring to our character, describing exactly what he thinks, and allowing us to connect to him. And at this point, it's not weak, but it's harder to connect to simply because it's something that you can't exactly ever come across. Now, I'm not knocking the game on this. I'm just saying something that I've seen. And I don't see that as a weak point because it's hard to connect to or understand fantasy a lot of the time. Because it's telling an interesting story, but you can't necessarily understand what the characters are going through a lot of the times because sometimes it's impossible to go through what the characters are going through, and there's no real life cases of what the character has gone through, so it's hard to connect to them via your own experiences or experiences of others. And I feel that this game does a good job of allowing you to connect to the characters and understand what they're going through. You're probably wondering why I'm sort of talking like this. It's simply because I've been thinking about my having an English teacher that was several English teachers that was well into this sort of thing and books and stuff like that. And this can be considered, this has a lot of visual novel elements, so this kind of stuff that usually applies to books applies to this as well. So it's just something that I thought I should mention, because criticism that usually applies to books can't apply to certain video games that have heavily involved stories, such as this one, which this game heavily relies on its story to pull you in, because it was just the gameplay isn't anything too amazing, but the story is what's amazing. The dialogue between your servant and the master, everything is what keeps this game together. The story is something that's heavily involved in this game. This game wouldn't be nearly as good without the good story. The gameplay is alright. It's enough to keep me intrigued. But the story is what keeps everything together. The world that the game builds keeps everything together. It's the binding. Hang on, I'll be quiet for a little while. Interruption stop. But yeah, there's a boss battle soon, so you're gonna want to heal up and do everything here. But as I was saying, I was gonna say like the story is the binding of a book, keeping all the pages together. But I don't feel that was that great of an analogy. But that's essentially what I'm going for, of what the story does to the game. Something could be improved upon. I think Fate Extra CC does improve on the gameplay aspect a bit more. So I think Fate Extra C, there's 3 C's. I keep saying just 2 C's. I think it's a better game overall in terms of mechanics and perhaps in the story as well, because I think actually Twice, I believe that game takes place like during Twice Actually, I was gonna say something about that, but I just recalled that that's a bit of a spoiler. So the spoiler of the name only, and we've heard the name before, but I should be quiet, I suppose. Odd, yeah, very odd. So, Julius has avoided deletion to kill us, I suppose. He feels that he needs to kill us for some reason, but as we can see, Julius is not exactly the same as he was before. Yeah, it has been a while, Julius. I think Jacqueline Fujiwara is a name I'm going to stick to in JRPGs. And in any other RPGs, like Pokemon, stuff like that. Pokemon is, I guess, could be considered JRPG, but in those kind of games, I'll stick with the name Cherry. But in a game where I ask me for my first and last name, I think Jacqueline Fujiwara is fine. So yeah, apparently Julius has some sort of question for us. Yeah, what is he trying to say? And then he just sort of snaps here because... what we really are. I wonder what he's talking about. A relic of the past, huh? According to Julius, we are reproductions of someone who lived 20 years ago, before the world went into ruin. The memories that we're having are of those of 20 years ago, when right around when the world became what it is today. But this isn't the full story exactly, and as we go through the game, we'll learn more about our character's backstory. Actually, right at the end is pretty much where we learn everything. And, well, that's usually when all, like, loose ends are, you know, tied together, I suppose. So Julius feels that, considering that we weren't actually someone that lived in the present, we should lose because, oh boy. Assassin isn't normal anymore. He's been transformed into a berserker somehow. So yeah, to survive, Julius cut another master's arm and attached it to his own. And supposedly it was the master's arm was a berserker. I doubt it's Ronnie, since no matter what route you're going through, this is a berserker. I assumed it might have been the opponent Leo was fighting, or it was an opponent that earlier, like when we were doing the fight with Ronnie. It must have been sometime after. Must have been sometime after we defeated him that we obtained that. So anyway, to cripple this guy as before, you're gonna want to use the Exorcist Blade and just spam your skills. This is pretty much all you need to do. He's not that difficult. He hasn't gotten more HP. He only has around 10,000 HP, and he's pretty easy. do. This is all he pretty much has to do. I'm sure he has more attack power than before, but overall, his overall strategy hasn't changed and actually became a little bit more simpler. And as you can see here, I do more than enough damage to finish him off. So yeah, assuming this is outside of the arena, there wasn't like extra time for him to like stay, like the other servants. They usually stay a little while, before they actually disappear, depending on the servant. And considering he was mostly dead anyway, he disappeared. But yeah, Julius' command symbol seals it disappear. He doesn't have another arm to attach to his own. And Jacqueline sort of understands Julius. And I guess I understand Julius as well, considering like what he'd been through. And I sort of feel the same way as our main character here. I felt like they wanted to do more, like actually show what was happening to him, like his body losing color and all that. But I think it's simply because of the graphical limitation, they couldn't do much but have like that digital, damaged look to him. But yeah, this is just me making sure that the barriers aren't gone. And this video is gonna end pretty soon, so I'll see you guys again next time, whenever that is. Bye.